welcome to another edition of Cycle Chat. I have with me a ultra endurance cyclist. He is Robbie Ferri. How are you doing, Robbie?
Hello. Yeah, really good, mate. How are you, Richard? Well?
Yeah, very well, thank you. It's excellent to have you on the show.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's I've seen a few interviews you've done. The Katie Kookaburra one that I really enjoyed, so I was quite excited to get on here. I do long distance cycling. I really kind of always wanted to be quick at cycling, but never was. So I thought if I can't be quick, I'll go the distance. So yeah, so I do like bikepacking races. I did a couple of like world record things recently. Well, I say recently, about 3-4 years ago. So yeah, so ultra distance, the best one out the lot.
So what would you say is your favourite part of going on the bike?
I think it's the escape from life, if I'm brutally honest. Like it's one of those situations where you can leave your phone in airplane mode, you can ride for a few hours, you're on your own, you get time to think. When I started cycling, I probably wasn't in the best like headspace, so it was time away from it all. And then it just got to the point of where the time away I really enjoyed, going to new places I really valued. And a friend of mine called Conway always used to say to me, like it's about opening your mind. So the further you go away, the more kind of experience and the more open your world will be. So yeah. I think it's just kind of escapism of it all that I think I enjoyed the most.
I'm familiar with Sean Conway. That's the guy who was interviewed by Simon Richardson on GCN.
He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And when it comes to like bikepacking and ultra endurance stuff, he's just amazing. Like I remember 4 years ago when I first started, I sent him an email. And I'm not sure if I should tell this story or not. I sent him an email going, I'm pretty good at cycling, but I don't really know how to do the rough camping and stuff like that. And he turned around to me and he actually said, I'm in the Lake District. Why don't you come up for a few days? So I actually went up there and cycled with him for a few days. And he kind of taught me how to bike pack, really. If you ever want someone to look up to on the bikepacking front, some good advice. He's an incredible guy, such a nice guy. And he's kind of what started me and gave me some of the tools to kind of be a little bit better at bikepacking. To be honest, anyone that would like the same thing from me, I'd quite happily do. And I have quite a few clients at the minute that do long distance bikepacking, and I'm the first person to say, come, we'll go do a couple of days away. Let me just teach you the basics. And then you kind of harness your own way about how to do it better yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I might find myself making my way down to Norfolk later this year.
You should. It's lovely down here.
To go back before all the ultra endurance things, how did you first get into cycling?
So I have a bit of a weird story about that, actually. Not weird, interesting. Yeah. So my sister is the most lovely like lady in the world. She's just amazing. And it was coming up to her wedding day, and I had no money at all, like not like 100 quid to my name to buy her a wedding present. And it was one of those moments in life I always wanted something really special, but I couldn't really afford anything too amazing. I bought a padlock and a £20 bike, and I cycled from London to Paris in 23 hours on this old £20 mountain bike, and put a love lock on the Lovelock Bridge for her and my brother-in-law. And ever since then, I've just been riding bikes. Spent a year in Italy. I'd come back. I was studying at the time to be an electrician, and just thought, why not? And I trained for 3 weeks for it. So I picked up a bike I'd never trained before, picked up this old £20 bike, and I just went for it one day. And it was the most amazing situation ever. It was just awesome. And I'll do it again in a flash. But looking back, I made it very difficult for myself. I took like a spare tire, like a massive bike lock, like this big. It was, I tell you, I probably was carrying 20 kilos more than I needed to on that trip. It was hilarious. Never really even watched a YouTube video on how to do it or anything. I just picked up a bike and went. I thought it's going to be a long day. Might as well just get on with it, really.
Jumped on a bike, went for it.
Oh, bricking it every step of the way. Absolutely bricking it the whole time. But it was just a time in my life where I kind of felt as though I was ready to just to face circumstances like that. Yeah. And I thought the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to be out at night on my own. And we live in a world where you'd hope that someone would help you out if you got really stuck. I didn't really worry about it. I just did it and thought, I've got a bit of a motto. It's easy, I worry about things when they need worrying about. If they don't need worrying about, then I just don't really think about it, if that makes sense. Terrible advice to anyone new starting. You need to think about everything, but just don't worry about everything. And sometimes people say, oh, but can you do this? Can you? I personally can't even true a wheel, and I've never learned how to. But until that day comes along, I still take a spoke key, but until that day comes along, I'll worry about it then.
I always take a spoke key everywhere. I've never used it once.
But wheels are good these days, though. Wheels are so strong that, like 10 years ago, you would find yourself changing a spoke. Yeah. Not these days. They're rigorously tested now, so I never worry about it. Even like running 21 spoke carbon wheels, do not even care. Even
when you was on your £20 bike, you didn't worry about it.
Didn't even care. Didn't even know what a spoke key was. Didn't even know what a spoke was, to be fair.
So, moving forward a little bit, have you ever bonked when you've been out on rides, or is there a particularly hard challenge where you've just pushed yourself up a little bit too far?
Lost count of how many times I've bonked, like terrible at it. My nutrition strategy has never been very good. I can't honestly remember, because the list is so long, how many times I've run out of food and water on rides and just powered on. And it's always like the thing with the ride is you always forget the bad stuff. So I don't really remember all the times when like I got super dehydrated and really ill over it, and then kind of had to just find a store and feel sorry for myself and stop rides because I just haven't got it right. But that's the process of learning.
Yeah,
you know, absolutely. Then you start to pick up triggers, don't you?
You've told me a little bit about Paris, but was that a one-off? I mean, how did you really get into long distance stuff, ultra endurance, things like that?
It just seemed like the next step. You know, it was I just wanted to keep going further and further. And it just always was one step further I wanted to go. And it just ended up, bikepacking 5-6 years ago wasn't really as big as it was today. And it was just like, this was when Transcontinental 2 and 3 was kind of floating about. It just wasn't so big. So you just kind of had to find your own way with it. I think now there's a lot more resources to find out how to do things now than there ever was. I just picked up new tricks, learned from different things. So I don't really know what kind of happened. I just kept wanting to ride longer. And after Paris, going to Brussels in 24 hours on a road bike this time, which was fun. And didn't really stop. It just slowly got more, 10 countries in 10 days. And then before I knew it, it was sitting at the I was doing the Bikingman stuff, and I was just sitting there thinking, God, this has got really out of hand. The Bikingman stuff was like a lot of the races they do. I did all of them in 1 year. And that was a really hard year. I feel like it made me who I am today, if that makes sense.
Do you ever do any audax or anything like that here in the UK?
Do you know, embarrassingly enough, I've not done a single audax. I've done one sportive before. That's it. So honestly, I'm the most antisocial cyclist I think you'll ever see. I didn't even know audax existed till about 3 or 4 years ago. And someone said, oh, when's your next audax? I was like, what's an audax? And then I found out, and I haven't really got round to it. And I promised myself last year I'd do some. And then COVID hit, and I'm talking to so many people about audaxing, and they're saying, you must get into it because the people you meet are just great. And I'm like, I will at some point. But then I always feel when there's a lot of people around, there's so much more pressure, isn't there? Actually, happy to say I did all the Bikingman ones in 2018. So that was Oman, which was just incredible because I actually grew up in Oman. So when I was younger, I was an expat and I grew up in Oman. The race started and it finished like a mile from my old house. So I deliberately didn't go into the city. The most amazing thing, rolling into my old neighborhood and then finishing the race and just thinking, wow, that was incredible. One of my favorite races, just because it had so much sentimental value. The hardest, Bikingman Peru. So that was where you find like Machu Picchu, all that. Was just, It was brutal. Like it was the hardest thing I've ever done because bikepacking is pretty, once you get better at it, and not better but comfortable doing it, it's not too bad. But when you get to like going to the new extremities of like you had to ride up at like 5,000 meters, altitude is not my strong point, climbing is not my strong point, but you know I went for it because it seemed like a good idea at the time. and I got really ill. I was fell asleep in a barn for like 12 hours, and my tracker broke, and no, I had no reception for like a day or two. It was one thing after another. There was wild dogs everywhere. The most annoying thing about that race was I got to the end and I was just destroyed. Like, there was mentally and physically, there was just nothing left inside. And I think I finished like 9th, so I was quite happy with that. I got to the end and realised that it was probably one of the most horrible experiences of my life that I'll probably do again, which was a painful thing to think about. And I'd highly recommend it. I didn't go as prepared as I could have done. Like, the gearing was wrong, the tyres were wrong, but it was just incredible. Other things I've done, I'm very happy to say, I'm not someone who really enjoys flexible route race. I've actually been in TCR twice. I scratched from both. The first one, I had a family member who fell quite ill, so I came away. The second one, I actually had a bit of an experience of where I'd been quite injured in the race around Netherlands before it, and I'd spent a few months recovering, and then before I didn't really even done any training, I went straight out to TCR. I got about a week in and just decided I didn't want to be there. And it was the first time. It wasn't injury that had stopped me. It was no motivation to be there. And I just wasn't kind of in the right headspace to race it. Although I felt like I could keep plodding along, I didn't really feel strong enough to do all the tough stuff. And I just kind of lost my edge and went out of it, really. So, and then, that kind of sucked. But apart from that, it is what it is. Like, not every race will be yours. The best race I've done, race around Netherlands, just incredible. It's a really good value money for race. I picked up a bit of a bad injury in the Netherlands. That was kind of due to me not taking appropriate clothing for the race and just got too cold. And there's something that can happen to your knees called it's called patellar tendonitis, and it's if your knees get too cold and you try and push through, it basically breaks up some of the muscles in there, and it just broke me off for about 3 months. It was a really tough recovery process. I went with summer gear, and the weather turned the day after we started, and the last 2 days we were getting -4 temperatures, and I was in, my 20 degrees summer stuff, and it was just awful. Like, I finished it. I was happy. I finished 9th in that as well. I seem to end up finishing 9th in a few things for some reason. I haven't really raced since. I've done some like fairly decent rides since, but not anything race-wise kind of since then. And with COVID, it's kind of stopped a lot of things. It is what it is. There's going to be, I think, with there's a lot of people getting into cycling now, which is exciting. So I'm really looking forward to, after all this ends, that when bikepacking races start again, they're just going to be incredible. They're going to be full of new people that have picked up bikes recently and just really finding a lot out about themselves.
Talk about the ultra distance stuff. How do you manage to find time?
I'm not going to lie, the first couple of years were really difficult, and to make it all work, to be able to pretty much just ride 4 days a week and work 3 was tough. But it's the best advice I got given when I kind of wanted to make a little bit more of a career out of the ultra riding was to don't worry about what you earn, worry about what you spend. A lot of the time you could go without, like I went without a car, I lived with family. I just kept it very cheap for a long time to make it work. And I did like a couple of years of really working 10 hours a week and cycling the rest. I had a few good sponsors, which was nice. So I was getting a bit of financial help from them. But apart from that, now I don't really, I have some sponsorship help, but not anything obviously financial. I earn everything, but it's about balance and time. But it was really difficult to do. It was very difficult to do. Once you've done it a year or so, you've built a good base of endurance. It's pretty easy to get it back by doing like 10, 15 hours a week training. So you kind of have to train smart after you've trained hard.
So when you're out on the road at an event like Transcontinental, when it comes to finding places to sleep on outside the road or in a B&B, once you're out there in the race, how do you find time off bike?
I tend not to like A really good bit of advice I'd hope to give to anyone kind of getting into ultra. If you can learn how to do the majority of stuff on your bike, you're pretty much there. Like finding hotels while like riding helps. I'm not a very good bivvy person. Like you get these people that are just incredibly good at sleeping on the side of the road and camping. I hate it. I'd rather ride through a whole night and then sleep in a hotel than do another 2 days and sleep in a hotel. I'd much prefer that. I just don't enjoy bivvying. I get a little bit scared in the middle of nowhere in the dark on my own, trying to sleep on the side of a road. I found for me, like hotels, I'd normally use hotels, whether I just jump in there quickly or have one every other night. Well, that's probably not the best race strategy, but I just found that's the best way to go for me. And it means you can cycle faster because you've got a lot less stuff. So that's always a good thing. But yeah, I'm not a good rough sleeper. I hate it. Like I'm way too much of I enjoy a shower. I enjoy some proper hot food. I'm not a wilderness person. I'm just not. But I accept that in my head now. Yeah. I do love my home comforts. Stuff like, I hate to say, one thing that I race with now is like a down jacket. Yeah. But it's got like heaters in, so I can link my power back up to it. I'm just not someone that enjoys being cold or sleeping rough. But it is what, if I had to, I'd do it. But I feel like to reset after a day and start again, it's nice to go indoor, have a shower, quick sleep, and then go back out again. And then your attitude is so much better to riding than it ever would be.
So you talked about power there. How do you keep your devices and electrics powered up? What's your approach?
So I just use a power bank, like a 10,000 milliamp, 20,000 milliamp. Just, it'll charge everything, like charge your lights, it'll charge, I normally get 3 days worth of riding before I need to sleep and start again. And because I'm not a fan of sleeping rough, there's always going to be a charge point somewhere in a hotel. It's about just picking your times right. Always having power is a really important thing. Navigation, safety, security. If you're out in the middle of nowhere and it's the middle of the night, having your light on full beam doesn't really do you any good. If you just put it on the lower beam, your eyes will adjust in time. Yeah. And then you can save so much electricity doing it that way. And you see people needing to charge every day. But the difference between 2,000 lumens and 200 lumens is having to stop a night early. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've used that approach myself in the past. You get that 3 settings, high, medium, and low. Just you stay on that low setting. Good roads, for me, that's kind of a measure of what power to stick it on.
Especially if you're going up a hill as well. You're not going quick enough to need to avoid anything too crazy.
How do you keep yourself hydrated? Yeah.
So if I'm a race where I want to get away without stopping much, I'll take a bladder. If I'm just doing day-to-day stuff, then I'll normally take water bottles because it's just cleaner. But a bladder, if I know I'm going to need like 3+ liters of water, I'll have like a 2.5 litre bladder. And then I'll get a bottle, but like your standard garage bottle, small, like ½ litre. And that's where I'll mix all my electrolytes in that bottle and then do it that way instead. So have a bottle, mix your electrolytes in, your hydration bladder. So you drink out your hydration bladder, keep it clean. So just water in there. And then you mix a very strong kind of electrolyte powder bottle. And then you take a little bit out of that and then drink water down. A little bit out of that, drink water down to make sure you're getting like enough salts and sodium and potassium in. And then that just manages your legs a little bit better. It's literally put really strong, high concentrate electrolyte in and just work it out that way.
I've just started using a hydration bladder myself. Yeah. The thing I can't get over is that you can't see how much water you've got left.
Yeah, that is one of the annoying things. I rate them and I don't. I think they're really annoying to drink out of, but I always sit there thinking, well, they save weight, you can take more water, you stop less, you need to shop less. That's the important thing. A lot of the guys that do really well seem to just use hydration bladders now. So I'm sitting there thinking, if the guys that are doing really well are just using hydration bladders, then it's something that I really feel like I need to adapt to doing.
You've already mentioned that you're doing race across the Netherlands this year. Are you competing in the TCR as well?
I promised myself I'd never do another TCR again. I don't really like the self-routing races very much. You know, it's so much more to think about. So I decided that I would literally just do races that I know the route on. The only other thing I want to do is like maybe the Great British Escapades. That's one that I'm looking at that looks quite good. Great British Divide. Stuff that's got to be in the UK, really. I doubt I'll probably get to the Netherlands this year with the way COVID and stuff is going.
Are you planning to train for it at the moment with all restrictions going on?
It's a difficult one to talk about because obviously having like a few followers on like Instagram and Twitter, I've always been quite careful with how you approach these things. Personally, I think the government restrictions say you're allowed out once a day from your doorstep back to your doorstep. You're not allowed to shop. You've got to be self-sufficient. So for me personally, it would be staying close to home. I would take a hell of a lot of water out, just go out, do one long ride and come back.
Yeah.
But anything that I'd want to do longer than what I could carry refueling would just have to be indoor. But it is difficult. Like, I'd only really stick to roads I know. I want to be as safe as possible. I personally, obviously, with everything going on, want to be the best of the community I can be. But on top of that, the difficult side of it is being, you don't want to end up in hospital and causing more problems as well. So as much as I love my turbo trainer, I definitely want to do a little bit outside. It'll probably only on good weather days and literally no resupply, won't see anyone. And then anything that I want to be a little bit longer would just be on the turbo. But I think I'll probably only do one long ride a week. And when I say long, probably no more than 8 to 10 hours. That's all you really need.
In 8 to 10 hours, you can easily do like a 200-kilometre ride, that sort of distance.
Exactly. And I'm quite lucky, to be honest, Richard. Norfolk is in a very good situation where we have, so where King's Lynn is, then you've got the coast round. There's a huge amount of roads in there which go nowhere. And there's not really anything on the coast where people need to be right now. So there's just no traffic where I am now. It's just the roads are dead, you know, and they're smooth, they're beautiful roads. I think out of all the places I've ridden in the UK, I personally think Norfolk, I'm biased because I live here, but I personally think they're the best smooth roads. They're beautiful to ride. It's very safe. Because it's quite flat, you can really get into a rhythm and a zone really easily. There is the odd few climbs, but not anything crazy enough that I'd ever really need to worry about. The headwinds are pretty brutal, so that's great for the Netherlands because you have to do a lot of that there as well. But it's the perfect training place for the Race Around Netherlands.
Normally on my show, we do a little bit of a quiz. This and that questions and things like that. I'm going to go on to that in a moment. But before we do, I just wanted to, you mentioned at the top of the show, you were talking about some world records that you have. Yeah,
so it's, actually, I'll level with you, Richard. This is a really very honest thing to say. I don't really talk about these much because I'm going to be brutal here. This is going to probably, I said this on a podcast once and I don't think it got the best entertainment, but the Guinness are a pain, an absolute pain. Like, they're so hard to deal with. And I went for the most country cycled in 7-day record. I did it. Literally, they ask you for so much evidence. You actually spend more time messing about filming than you do actually trying to break a bloody record. And I did it the first time. I took all the evidence, sent it all off. Days later, someone came along, smashed mine. So I was like, what's even the point? You have to get like 2 minutes footage for every hour. So that's the hard thing. So you've got to carry a bit of equipment for that. Written statements from city officials. So you actually have to, in each country, like in Serbia, walking up to a policeman saying, I need your name, address, details, and contact numbers. It's just not a good idea. A lot of people now break these records, but without doing the evidence. So they do them, then they never apply to Guinness. And I can see why. It's just one of those situations where it doesn't really become about the riding anymore. It all becomes about footage and signatures. And they're the worst trips because you don't actually enjoy it because you're so worried about what if I lose this SD card? What if this goes wrong? So yeah, so I did the most countries, visited by bicycle in 7 days. And that's kind of where I went with it. I attempted it 3 times. First time, epic fail, hurt my knee. Second time, 45 minutes, I broke it in, then I lost it like a day later. Someone went out and did it. And then came back and I decided on the last time, just going to do it and just see what happens. And I did it. And then a really cool guy after absolutely demolished it called Robert Gardner, who's a really lovely guy. and he just literally destroyed mine, like by about 2 countries.
It kind of sounds like you need a team with you as well. A team of people just to do that for you or something. Mark Beaumont, when he went around the world, he had a team, didn't he? They could have done all that.
That's kind of the best way to go about it. And for me, when you're just like being in your own company, it's quite difficult to even want to really worry about all that. I think all the times I did record stuff, I don't remember much stuff about the trip. I just remember worrying about the evidence so much that I never really took much away from it. And all the stuff that I did, which was racing, when I wasn't too fussed, because races I've never gone in to win. I've just gone in because I think it's fun. I've always enjoyed the people, the places, and taken really good memories away from it. So it always made me think that I think records will be obsolete in 5 years, because I just think people just think the evidence is just too much. The week record, here's the thing with Guinness. One guy did 2,800 kilometers in a week, and they said that wasn't enough. They said the people that should be doing that record should be doing at least 5,000 K in a week. You need at least 450 miles a day for it to be creditable. I actually applied and said, look, here you go. This is ridiculous. You can't really ask people to do that much. And then they actually came back and said, okay, 3,100 K. And then, so it's all over. But it's one of them annoying situations where I'm going to do it, but I don't think I'm going to be too fussed about the evidence. I think I want to do it for the fun of doing it. Like, I've never really done anything. Like, I know it sounds weird to have a legacy or anything like that. I'm just more interested in having a good bike ride and just seeing how much I can destroy myself before I give up.
So, shall we go to that quiz? So I've got my phone ready. It's a minute. It's kind of cycling, but there's also a few curveballs in there as well. So
you're worrying me now, Richard.
3, 2, 1. Beach or in the mountains?
Beach.
Zwift or outdoor or weathers?
Outdoor.
E-bike or pedal power?
Pedal power.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
80s or 90s music?
80s.
Rear lights, USB powered or batteries?
Oh, that's a tough one. Batteries.
Road bike or gravel bike?
Gravel.
Toilet paper, over or under?
Under.
It's raining, mud guards or no mud guards?
Never ever have mud guards on. Never in my life.
Jam or peanut butter?
Peanut butter.
Scooby-Doo or Tom and Jerry?
Scooby-Doo, of course, every time.
White or black handlebar tape?
Black handlebar tape.
Rock music or hip hop?
Hip hop, definitely hip hop.
I'm going to ask you one more. Cups in the cupboard, right side up or upside down?
Oh, that's the toughest one yet. Right side up. Right side up.
I wanted to talk a bit more about your channel. How did you get into it?
I put a couple of videos on YouTube years ago. My channel's still quite new. I've only really been vlogging probably the last 9 months properly. And I did start with a daily vlog, but I didn't realise how difficult it would be to keep up a daily vlog. It's insane. I literally do put a few videos out 3-4 times a week. And it's a bit harder in winter because there's a lot less to talk about. But I just do a little bit of a vlog, just kind of about the training and just about going out and cycling and just have a lot of fun with it, really. A lot of the stuff that I record never actually gets edited in. Yeah. Like I actually edited, I did a video the other day all about coming back to training after having a few days off. And I literally took all the footage, did all the talking, and I was like, I don't really think this is very interesting, so I didn't put it up at the end. But I'm not really too creative about it. I'm not worried too much about quality. I think it's just nice I feel like it's a bit of an outlet to kind of, it makes COVID feel like some days are different than others, because it's a bit Groundhog Day for everyone at the minute.
Yeah. What kind of things have you learned along the way?
I think what I've learned along the way is, but the weirdest thing is I always thought you have to do something really interesting to catch the attention of people, when just telling day-to-day stuff is more the key than anything. Like, I see these videos, I rode 100 miles in 4 hours and all this, eating only pasta, and all these crazy YouTube things, when actually just using it as a bit of an outlet and just talking about the real stuff, like when you get it all wrong, is so much more valuable. Like, I did quite a lot of videos last year when I had a bit of a problem with my thyroid, And just being able to have a bit of a vent online and to hear similar experiences with people got me kind of through a bit of a funny patch really well. And it really helped a lot. And I had a lot of opinions from people all over the world, some really good emails and messages about how to kind of work with it and get around it. And I think I owe kind of the recovery and having a good mental space about it was really good, just from being able to talk about it on the channel and just get people's opinions.
If we look back at your back catalogue of videos, is there any standout videos we should definitely watch?
The one of the Inca Divide race, the one in Peru that I told you about, that is the video to watch. Me in very grumpy moods, without enough food and water for a whole week.
What's your favourite place you've been to?
This sounds sad. I'm going to say it though. Nothing beats riding in Norfolk for me. It's my favourite place in the world to ride a bike. It's flat, it's nice. I go back to my house and, my bath, make dinner in my kitchen after. It's just, the roads are smooth, they're beautiful, the people are so nice, the roads are quiet, the cycle routes are just incredible here. And honestly, for me, I really can't stress this enough. My favourite place to ride a bike is Norfolk, and if someone said, you've got one more week where you can ride your bike and then never again, I'd spend all of it in Norfolk.
You kind of answered this question already, but when it comes to your ultra distance races, when you're out there, have you ever managed to record anything mid-race or live vlogging, daily vlogs, things like that?
All the Bikingman stuff I did videos on. So I normally, every race I do a little bit of footage on. I try and do more about the kit lists and setups beforehand, because when I'm racing, I'm normally not really in the mood to film too much. But I've made a habit now of wanting to film it more. And now I guess I'm a little bit less serious about it all. I find that it's easier to film now because I'm not worried if someone comes past me or anything like that. And because I do so much filming on the bike, I get away with it a bit more. I just have to make sure it's not too bad on the sound. That's the only thing.
Did you do much footage when you was on the TCR then in 2017 and 2019?
I'll be honest with you, Richard, the nicest bit of TCR 2019, and I said this on recently on a video I did, the nicest bit was when I got to the top of a mountain and saw a sausage dog, because I really like sausage dogs. And I saw it, I picked it up, gave it like a little bit of a cuddle, a little bit of a stroke. And then I realized that this is the most exciting fun I've had in 3 days, and just realized I'm not enjoying this race. The race is great and the community is great, but I just wasn't in the right headspace.
What you got coming up on your channel in the next few weeks then? What's your plans for 2021 beyond what you've already told us?
I wouldn't mind doing 24 hours on Zwift, just because I've seen so many people do it, and I think it could be a cool experience. I'm not sure if I'm going to end up filming it, getting halfway through and like, I can't be asked with this. And it turns into 12 hours on Zwift. So that's kind of my thoughts. Not in any rush to really do anything too crazy until kind of the COVID thing's over, really. And I feel like if I spent a day on my turbo, I probably wouldn't touch it for another month, which would be a really bad for my training. That's for sure.
Have you ever done an Everesting at all in the past?
No, I weigh 80 kilos. I'm definitely not made to go up Everest. I think it would be fun to do, but not anything I've ever really thought about and wanted to do, especially in Norfolk. There's some hills here to do it, but even so, you can't really get out for a full day to do it anyway. So it's just one of them.
I've often thought about, and it's probably not got a name, it might be like an Everesting circuit, where you're going up a few hills and then go that distance, that height. I think I'd find that more appealing than going up the same hill, up and up and up and down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah, I don't really do too well with monotonous stuff. So for me, it's going to be like, I've gone up once, now 97 times to go. Like, it just doesn't tick any boxes for me, really. I've never really been that interested in climbing. I want to be the kind of guy that goes, I love distance races and going up alpine passes, but I genuinely don't. I love riding. Riding the flats is more my thing. I enjoy little punchy hills than I do big long hills, and stuff like the Netherlands race is very flat. It's good for me, because if not, you end up climbing just isn't really. I just feel as though I always dig too deep on climbs when I don't need to.
So I got one final question for you, Rob, then. And I ask everybody on the show, how many bikes do you own?
4. a Ritchie Outback, which is a gravel bike, which is made of steel, which is kind of my go-to at the minute, and I just love it. It's probably the best bike I've ever owned, actually. It's just too comfortable. Like, it is just so nice to ride, and you can just hammer it into anything, and it just comes out comes out of corners so nicely. Really like it. I've got like a road racing bike, which I use an old B-twin. Like, I built that up recently, but I think I might end up selling it because I don't really use it. And I've got a mountain bike, and then a Linsky titanium bike, which is another gravel bike. So I've got 2 gravel bikes, 1 road, and actually a mountain bike and a very old Peugeot Elite vintage frame. And that's kind of all I've got.
Have you been out on your mountain bike this winter then?
Yeah, a few times. Fell off once. I've realised I'm not very good at mountain biking. Not at all. Like, I have no technical ability at all, Richard. But I'm happy to accept
it. I say every year, I'm going to get a mountain bike this year, and I still haven't.
I've decided it's not anything I'm ever going to be very good at, and I'm happy to accept that. Yeah. Definitely to accept that.
So, Robbie, it's fantastic to have you on the show this week.
It's been well overdue, me and you having a bit of a chat anyway. Here's my dog. Just come in from a walk.
She called?
Yeah, she's cute, bless her, but she's here because there's probably food somewhere up here.
Well, thanks so much, Robbie. I hope everybody back home has enjoyed the show as well. From the both of us, take care. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.